Hi, welcome back to the Rich Fritzky Show. It's a pleasure to have you with me. Next week, baseball. I promise, next week, Yankees. We're going to go light because we're going a bit to the dark side today. Good stuff, a little darker. But why not talk about it? It's the stuff that one's not supposed to go to, and yet, and ironically, it's the stuff that the older you get grows bigger and bigger in the rearview mirror. For death and loss have, you suddenly realize, walked with you for oh so long, ever encroaching, ever reminding, ever calling. Once upon a time, in what may seem like just a moment ago, we could count the loved and lost on one hand, well, two hands. Suddenly, you come to notice that it's nigh on impossible to count them all. For you and death have grown intimate. As the two preceding generations, the whole lot of them have all passed away. And even your own generation has been torn and tattered. My Maggie, who in oh so many ways, when she became my full-time caregiver, had to leave behind the life we knew, had to bear and embrace the burden that ought to have been mine alone to carry. Even in that, understand that there was a dying of sorts, one that she took on without complaint. Now my Maggie is old school and she loves fiercely and forever, and so she comes to mind immediately as I embrace this week's topic. Why Maggie? Because unlike most, time matters not at all to her. Time doesn't heal. To her, the loss of her sisters was not 13 or 3 years ago. Her mom was not 17 years ago, and even her best friend, Teresa Scrow, was not 45 years ago. No, they were just yesterday, just a moment ago. Oh, a measure of peace evolves inevitably, but the tears will still be fresh. There is in the language this rarely used word, mortification, which is to die unto, to so humble oneself so as to live through the very prism of one's own mortality, which has the actual effect of coloring one's life both mystically and spiritually, and yes, even brilliantly. One who mortifies gets to appreciate the wonder of this world and of life. They recognize that a baby, even in being born, suffers a death, as the baby dies unto the safety and security and protection of the womb. And then they go on to lose their best friends in nursery school and kindergarten. And the family moves and they lose neighborhoods and familiar parks. On it goes, school, friends, things, and oh God, the genuine pain of those first loves. The bike, the motorcycle, that tattered and torn sweatshirt, the first jobs, the classes, the campus, the team, the marriage, the dream, the avocation, the hope. What is a relentless suffering of dying untos that are soon enough dwarfed by the deaths of family and friends and everyone imaginable in a life lived. Maggie and I had literally dozens upon dozens of aunts and uncles, and the greats and the grands that preceded them. All have gone home in great faith and trust and love, and the ties are powerfully, and so too the memories, and the tall tales and their contributions, and service and courage and sacrifices, the daily toils and the grace. There were soldiers and priests and railroad men, and bus drivers and accountants and homemakers, and ball players and small business owners and shopkeepers. There were municipal clerks and postal workers and teachers and lithographers, husbands, wives, uncles and aunts, grandparents, cousins, all people of great love. The belonging, the magnitude of it all is a wonder. Among them, by the way, an 8-year-old niece and a 4-year-old love. The heavens do not discriminate between the sinners and the saints, and there were indeed saints among them. I hear Walt Whitman's eloquent reminder that nothing ever collapses, and I think of him and the extraordinary genius of God's creation, wherein spirit ever and always and only expands and enlarges, exploding in death into the all of our tomorrows. Nothing collapses. Walt Whitman resoundingly and joyously proclaimed, reminding us, assuring us that those who have gone home to God so richly and steadfastly continue to abide in our hearts and souls today. And the wonder of this creation that our poor powers of imagination cannot even begin to fully comprehend, much less appreciate. I now turn to Nathaniel Terence Vetter, Maggie and Doug's first, who was born and who died on July 21, 2001. As birthdays go, it was pretty damn rugged, for he went home to God while still in the womb. As his mom went through the trauma of labor, she already knew that his little heart would never beat and that his lungs would never draw a breath. And yet his soul palpably penetrated the deepest recesses of the hearts of each of his parents. There was death. He never took a single breath, yet his life was present to Maggie and Doug as his soul caressed them and wiped away their tears. Nathaniel, a gift from God, was born, not in body but in soul. Nathaniel, by the way, literally means a gift from God. His middle name, Terence, was to honor the memory of his dad's closest friend, who had died at the tender age of 23 in a vicious accident on a Pennsylvania interstate. A love with a great heart, his birthday, like Nathaniel's, also was July 21. And for Maggie and Doug, it was as if they could feel the very embrace of their two souls. This was not a wish or a thought or an illusion born of raw grief. It was a poignant and powerful spiritual consciousness that lifted up their own sagging souls and hearts. There was improbable joy amidst the tears, as they knew that Terry was there with Nathaniel to be with him on this so very quick journey home to God. Maggie was keenly aware of the presence of his living soul when she later wrote, "Sometimes I wonder if God gave me the gift of Nathaniel to teach me one of life's hardest lessons, the lesson of our soul, the lesson that only our innermost being can teach. It is at the core of every one of us, and it is stronger than our earthly humanity, because it is one with and of God. It was through God alone, therefore, that I found the courage to dive into the very depths of my own soul, where my grief festered so, and where I could, soul to soul, meet my own son. Turning away and sticking out a stiff upper lip simply wasn't going to cut it this time. I had to embrace my grief. I had to work through that grief and set myself free from it. I go back there deep within to visit time and time again, so as never to forget this greatest gift of God." Their second, by the way, Meg, was born 2 years later on December 8, 2003, at 1½ pounds, with just over 5 months in the womb. But death would be denied this time. She would reside in the NICU for more than 4 months, and robbed of speech in her early developmental years. She was to be a long-standing frequent flyer to Cincinnati Children's Hospital, where they would reconstruct the throat and perform other assorted miracles to sustain her. Today, Meg is a senior, looking forward to college, while our Emily, pregnant with her second, a boy, will soon bring our 24th grandchild into the world. We watched as my sister Mary Ann's 7-year-old Sue, who was dying of brain cancer, sat on Maggie's lap and literally made out a will as to where the toys of hers that truly mattered were to go, her sisters and those special cousins. That adorable little girl forgot no one. And when our good friends Danny and Mary Kay were soon to lose their Megan, Danny told me of a conversation he had with his little girl the night before, as she told him that Jesus had been visiting her at night. Danny first thought, well, she's on heavy-duty medication. But then she asked him, if he gets to talk to Jesus the way that she does. And he said, well, he does in prayer and in heart, and he knows that Jesus hears him. But doesn't he talk to you the way he talks to me? Doesn't he come to see you? She asked. And when he said, well, no, not that way, Megan, looking as if she were about to cry, she sadly said, Daddy, oh, Daddy, I feel so very sorry for you. Two remarkable children, both of whom knew they were going and were prepared to take their leaves without any fear. The great St. Mother Teresa, a close friend of my Aunt Mary Varick's, visited Sue just days before she passed. And she visited my cousin Billy, Wilma Varick, who with 4 young children was near the end of her bout with ALS. And when Aunt Mary herself was dying at St. Michael's in Newark, Mother Teresa made it again, just the night before Mary passed, teasing her about winning the race that they were running to be the first to go to God. I myself was blessed to wash the body of my dad at the urging of my cousin Kathy on the night he quietly breathed his last. There was something so beautiful, peaceful, and sacrificial in doing so. And 5 years later, I was so blessed to be with my siblings on the morning my mom, our darling Rosie, took her leave. It was holy. I, by the way, like the death we meet in Meet Joe Black. And given my own faith, I love Christ's take on dying. And where I am, there may you be also. I also love Ram Dass's take and Thomas Merton's and Dylan Thomas's Death Be Not Proud. I like Rene Descartes' now the mystery. And I so love St. Thomas More's words to his executioner, to take heart in what you do. You but send me to my God. And my Lincoln's, and when I die, I want it said of me by those who knew me best that I always plucked a thistle and planted a flower wherever I thought a flower would grow. And God bless Winnie the Pooh's if there ever comes a day we can't be together. Keep me in your heart, and I'll stay there forever. On this subject, we had the wisdom of the ages, Socrates and Plato, and Islam's Ibn Rushdi, and Judaism's Maimonides, and the Hindu reincarnation or the enlightenment portal to the divine. Death is, my friends, the muted mirror that reflects the wonder, the mystery, the meaning of our having lived and given our all to life. Why don't we all do justice to ours? Think of what we said last week. You got to carry each other, serve, give, and I tell you, all the gods of all the faiths will say welcome. Welcome, good and faithful servant. Thanks, that's a wrap for today. Have another great week. And yes, as ever, smile on your brothers and sisters and get that vaccine just as soon as you possibly can. Take care.